phone in my hand turned to ice as my mother's words appeared on the screen. "Rachel, honey, about Christmas this year with your brother Noah bringing his new fiancée. She's a TV anchor, you know. We thought it might be best if you sat this one out. You understand, right? Love, Mom." My vision narrowed to a tunnel, the glittering Chicago skyline beyond my office windows blurring into meaningless lights. The merger documents I'd just finalized, a $240 million tech acquisition, trembled slightly between my fingers. The conference room down the hall, filled with executives waiting for my signature, suddenly felt miles away, though I could hear their muffled laughter through the walls. A sharp pain bloomed in my palm. I'd gripped my Mont Blanc pen so tightly that the cap had cut into my skin, leaving a perfect crescent-shaped indent. 15 years of building an empire, and they still saw me as someone to be hidden away. My name is Rachel. I'm 38 and the CEO of my own global consulting firm. This is the story of how I learned that the most powerful seat isn't at someone else's table. For months, I'd sensed something brewing. The family group chat that went silent when I joined, the LinkedIn congratulations for Noah's minor promotions while my company's international expansion earned nothing but radio silence, my mother's careful redirection whenever I mentioned visiting during the holidays. "Miss Turner," my assistant Vanessa appeared in the doorway, her expression concerned. "The executive team from Mirage is ready for the call." "Thanks, Vanessa," I said, straightening my navy silk blazer. My family still assumed I thrifted my clothes, and I let them. They had no idea that the freelance analyst they barely acknowledged was now Rachel Turner, CEO of Westridge Strategies, the firm quietly steering some of the biggest business decisions across 3 continents. 15 years ago, I'd walked out of our Minnesota farmhouse after refusing a role at the family firm, Turner and Noah Holdings. "You're being selfish," my father had yelled. "You think you know better than all of us?" "Let her try. She'll come crawling back," Noah had chuckled from his leather chair, arms crossed. I never did. I moved to Chicago with nothing but a laptop and a vision. I built Westridge from scratch, working impossible hours, risking everything. Now Westridge quietly owned minority stakes in half the firms my family dealt with. There was a knock. "Miss Turner?" Vanessa entered, holding a thick folder. "The contract from Turner and Noah Holdings. It's ready for your signature." I smiled, so they needed help after all. I picked up my pen, then paused. "Actually, Vanessa, cancel it." "Cancel it?" Her eyes widened. "Merry Christmas." The irony tasted better than any holiday wine. Turner and Noah Holdings, my father's legacy firm, had spent the last 6 months scrambling for a strategic alliance with Westridge Strategies. They had no idea the company they were chasing belonged to the very daughter they'd cast aside. I'd kept tabs on my family through a network of industry contacts and occasional updates from my Aunt Margaret, who'd always stayed in touch despite the family rift. I glanced again at my mother's message. Need to maintain a certain image. My email chimed. A new message from Noah. "Rachel, Mom told me about Christmas. Don't overthink it. You know how she gets with appearances. Besides, Melody's career is very public. It's just cleaner this way. Maybe once you're established, things can go back to normal." "Once I'm established?" I echoed silently, staring at the 7-figure deal waiting on my desk. This partnership would unlock Turner and Noah's international operations, a lifeline for them. I knew from our intel how much Dad had been boasting about it. All it needed now was one thing, my signature. Vanessa returned holding an iPad. "Your father's on Zoom. He wants to confirm tomorrow's contract ceremony." I nodded and picked up the call. "Rachel Turner speaking," I said, my voice calm and clipped. I always used my mother's maiden name in business to stay hidden. I'd maintained just enough communication with my family over the years to keep appearances, obligatory birthday calls and the occasional text, never revealing my true career success. "Hey, everything set?" my father said, chipper and formal, a far cry from the man who once called my startup a waste of potential. "Just checking. Everything's on track for tomorrow, right? This deal is vital to our future." I thought of the Christmas dinners I wasn't invited to, of Noah's smug emails, of years spent as the family shadow. "Actually, Mr. Turner," I said slowly, I've been reviewing the terms. I have some concerns. Concerns? His voice cracked. But everything was approved. Things change, I replied. We should discuss it in person. Bring the whole family to the ceremony. Turner and Noah is a family company, right? Of course, he stammered. My wife, Noah, Melody, all your children, Mr. Turner, I said firmly. A pause, then softer. Well, Rachel's not really involved. All your children, I repeated. Understood, he murmured. Good, I said, and hung up. Tomorrow would be interesting. After my father ended the call, I leaned back in my chair, staring out over the glittering Chicago skyline. Tomorrow, my family would walk into Westridge headquarters, expecting to meet a powerful but nameless CEO. Instead, they'd come face to face with the daughter they had dismissed and forgotten. Vanessa stepped into the doorway once more. Shall I prepare the executive conference room for tomorrow's event? I nodded, running my fingers over the embossed contracts. Yes, and Vanessa, make sure the photographers are ready. I want the moment fully documented. That night, I stayed late planning each detail. This wasn't just a signing ceremony. It was the moment everything would change. My family was obsessed with image, but they were about to see what earned power looked like. Christmas would never look the same again. By 6 a.m., I was already in my office. The 47th floor conference room gleamed. Fresh orchids, imported tea, conference table polished to perfection, floor-to-ceiling views of the frozen lake below. Vanessa appeared, calm as always. Your family just arrived. Shall I bring them up? I checked my reflection. Gone were the soft sweaters and modest shoes they were used to. Today, I wore a charcoal Armani suit, Louis Vuitton pumps, and my grandmother's Cartier watch, her final gift to the granddaughter they all underestimated. Let them wait, I said, smoothing my jacket. I'll make an entrance. 20 minutes later, I stood in my private elevator, watching the floors pass. My phone buzzed. Another message from my mother. Rachel, where are you? Your father says this meeting is critical. Don't embarrass us. I smiled, slipped the phone away. Through the glass walls of the conference room, I could see them. Dad pacing, Mom fixing Noah's tie, Melody rehearsing her smile, and the senior board glancing at the contracts, unaware. I gave Vanessa a nod. She opened the doors. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced. Miss Rachel Turner, CEO of Westridge Strategies. The room froze. The air turned electric. As I stepped inside, my heels echoed across the marble. Then my mother's champagne flute slipped from her fingers, shattering across the polished walnut table. My father's face drained of color, rage giving way to disbelief. But it was Noah's stunned silence I'd remember most. The ever-confident air reduced to a speechless onlooker. Good morning, everyone, I said coolly, taking my seat at the head of the table. Shall we begin? This is absurd, my father stammered. You're a freelance consultant, aren't you? I lifted a sleek black folder and flipped it open. Because according to these documents, I'm the CEO of the firm you've been courting, Westridge Strategies. The senator sat up straighter, suddenly attentive. I'm sorry, what exactly is going on? Oh, I said, turning to Melody with a mock, sweet smile. I would have been properly introduced at Christmas dinner, but funny thing, I wasn't invited. Something about maintaining appearances. Rachel, sweetheart, this has all been a huge misunderstanding. My mother opened her mouth. Has it? I cut in, sharp as ice. I tapped a button on the panel. The wall screen lit up. Let's review. Here's your message, Mom, suggesting I sit Christmas out. Here's Noah implying my career was a fluke. And here. I tapped again. Is Dad pleading for this partnership, completely unaware he's been negotiating with his invisible daughter? The room fell silent. Vanessa moved between chairs, placing updated copies of the contract in front of each guest. Dad flipped through his, in panic. These aren't the same terms. These are different. I agreed, I said. I've made revisions. I've had time, years actually, to decide how I wanted this moment to go. No, he leaned forward. You can't do this. Turner and Noah has plans, expansion, investors. Like I had plans when I launched my business with no support, I said. When I was dismissed at every holiday table. That was different, Mom said. We were trying to protect you from failure. No, I stood, letting my voice cut through the air. You weren't protecting me. You were protecting your social status. I gestured toward the city skyline beyond the glass. Congratulations! Today the world learns exactly who the Turners are. I stood slowly, adjusting the cuff of my blazer. The partnership is off, I said, voice calm and final. Westridge will be acquiring Mirage directly. And as Dad likely realizes by now, that effectively blocks Turner and Noah Holdings from accessing the European market. My father collapsed into his chair, the weight of it finally settling in. Without the Westridge partnership, without the capital injection from international expansion, Turner and Noah would remain exactly what it was, a dated regional firm operating on the illusion of relevance. You can't do this, he murmured. We're family. I paused at the door, then slowly turned. Family? That's funny, because just yesterday I was told I wasn't successful enough to be family. I tilted my head, feigning reflection. I wonder, will I be enough for Christmas dinner now? And with that, I left. The silence behind me was deafening. Through the glass, I glimpsed my mother pressing a designer handkerchief to her face, Dad staring hollowly at the shredded contract, and Noah, polished, prideful Noah, sitting slack-jawed, his plans crumbling like dust. Vanessa fell into step beside me. That was intense. Are you okay? I glanced at the screen of my phone. Another blinking message from my mother. Rachel, please come to dinner. We need to fix this. I smiled faintly. Cancel my Christmas dinner, I said. I've got better plans. The fallout came fast. Voicemails, emails, pleading texts. Rachel, we're still your parents. You're ruining us. This isn't how family solves problems. Please, let's meet face to face, just us. I didn't respond. Westridge finalized the Mirage acquisition while Turner and Noah stock began a slow, humiliating slide. Business headlines weren't kind. Massive loss in M&A play. Merger collapse tanks family-owned firm. Westridge takes lead in AI supply chain. 1 week later, I sat in my office reviewing new acquisition proposals when Vanessa appeared again. Your brother's here, she said. Third time this week, but this time he's alone. I pulled up the security feed. Noah stood quietly in the lobby, but this time he wasn't wearing his tailored smile. His tie was loose. His eyes were tired. Something had changed. Send him up, I told Vanessa after a pause. Noah stepped into my office slowly, his eyes scanning the space he'd never imagined his little sister commanding. The panoramic skyline behind me, the art, the quiet power in the details. Nice office, he said, voice low. Bigger than mine at Turner and Noah, though I guess that doesn't mean much anymore. What do you want, Noah? He dropped into a visitor chair. For once, he didn't posture. Melody called off the wedding. I raised a brow. Really? The perfect political couple couldn't weather a few headlines? She said she can't be tied to a sinking ship, he said. He gave a hollow laugh. Said I no longer fit her image. The irony hung heavy. Dad's drinking again, he added. The board's starting to panic. Mom can't show her face at the club. Everything's falling apart. Because of me? I asked evenly. No, he admitted. Because we built everything on appearances, just like my relationship. I nodded once. You all treated success like it had one look, and I never fit it. I deserve that, he said quietly. You deserved a lot more, I replied, my voice hardening. Do you know what it felt like watching you all celebrate each other's wins while pretending I didn't exist? Mom threw parties for your every promotion. She never even remembered what I did. We thought you were struggling. You never asked, I cut in, standing. Not once in 10 years did any of you ask about my company, my team, my vision. You were too busy dismissing me to see I had surpassed all of you." His silence said it all. Then real tears, not performative, welled in his eyes. "I was awful to you. Can you ever forgive me?" I looked at him steadily. "Forgiveness isn't the issue, Noah. Trust is, and that's something you'll have to earn." Suddenly, the door burst open. My parents strode in, ignoring Vanessa's objections. Noah must have told them where I was after his previous visits. "Rachel!" my father snapped, though the usual thunder in his voice was gone. "This has gone far enough," he continued. "Oh?" I said calmly. "And what point would that be?" "You're successful," my mother said breathlessly. "That we were wrong. We see you now, darling, so please stop punishing us." I laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "Do you think this is about revenge? About proving I made it?" I rose from my seat and walked to the window, staring out over the glittering skyline. "No, this is about consequences, about finally making it clear that your choices, your judgment, your disregard, your arrogance have weight." "We're your parents," my father said, his voice cracking. "Everything we did, it was to protect you." I turned slowly to face them. "No, everything you did was to protect your image." I gestured toward the headlines on my tablet. "Well, congrats. That image is now shattered. A crumbling company, a disgraced engagement, and a family unraveling." "What do you want from us?" Noah asked quietly. "What I wanted," I said, "was your belief when I was building Westridge, your respect when I succeeded, to be treated like family, not like a mistake." I paused, letting the words settle. "But now, I don't want anything." My mother's tears began to fall, but I didn't flinch. I'd seen those tears before, when I didn't get into the right college, when I didn't take the job at the firm, when I let the family down. "Please, Rachel, it's almost Christmas." "Ah, yes," I said. "The Christmas dinner I was too much of a disappointment to attend. Tell me, do you still need to maintain appearances, or did that vanish when your golden boy got dumped?" "Just tell us. Board seats, equity, a public apology. Name it." My father stepped forward. I shook my head. "You still don't get it. I don't want what you have. Westridge is worth 10 times what Turner and Noah ever was." "What I wanted," I said softly, "was a family that valued me. Not for what I could do, but for who I am." I pressed the intercom. "Vanessa, please escort them out and update the security list." "Rachel, please," my mother whispered. "We can fix this." "No, Mom, you don't fix a decade of dismissal with a desperate apology." As the door closed behind them, I sat in silence, city lights flickering below. Then my phone buzzed. "Heard what happened. Your grandmother would be proud. Christmas dinner at my place this year. Margaret." I smiled, a quiet warmth spreading through me as if a weight had finally lifted. Margaret, my mother's sister, had always been my staunchest supporter, even maintaining contact when the rest of the family had written me off. Sometimes family isn't defined by blood, but by those who believe in you when no one else does. The next morning, I gathered my executive team at Westridge Strategies. It was time. We were launching our boldest move yet, a complete restructuring of the consulting landscape, starting with the acquisition of 3 mid-tier firms across the Midwest. Turner and Noah Holdings wasn't on the list. Their fate was sealed. They would continue operating as a diminished regional player, a shadow of their former ambitions. The board would eventually force my father into early retirement within 6 months, according to my industry sources. As I stood before the board laying out our strategy, I thought briefly of the Christmas dinner happening in my parents' home. The glossy table, the curated wine, the hollow toasts, all of it built to preserve a crumbling illusion. Meanwhile, I was building something real. A week later, Vanessa placed a small package on my desk. Inside was my grandmother's old leather business card holder and a note from Margaret. She always said you'd outshine them all. Looks like she was right. I placed it on my desk right beside my nameplate. A quiet reminder. Success isn't defined by those who show up when you've made it, but by those who stood by you when you were still rising. My family had wanted to preserve their image. Well, they got one, just not the one they expected. And me? I had the one I earned, respected, fulfilled, and completely free. So when someone asked me later, "Do you ever miss your family?" I smiled, turned back to my desk, and said, "I have a company to run." Because that was worth more than any seat at their table. If you've ever been underestimated, cast aside, or told you weren't enough, this story is for you. I didn't build my life to prove them wrong. I built it to prove to myself that I was right to believe in the quiet fire inside me. If you felt something in my story, leave a comment. Tell me what you overcame. Or just say, "I see you," because I know how much that can mean. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You don't need their seat at the table. Build your own. And one day, they'll wish they had a seat at yours. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you enjoy stories about personal growth and overcoming challenges, you might like my recommendations for inspirational business memoirs. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one. My thumb froze over the screen as my brother's words materialized in our family group chat. Quick update, only bringing enough dessert for 11 tomorrow. Mom said Lydia doesn't need her own place setting. The Christmas Eve dinner I'd been prepping for all month. The one I'd requested time off for, bought new serving dishes for, even practiced my grandmother's recipe for. It was happening without me. In the glow of my kitchen's overhead light, I watched 3 sets of typing bubbles appear, then disappear. No one defended me. No one questioned it. Instead, my mother added, "We think it's for the best." Victor's new girlfriend gets overwhelmed by medical talk, and you know how you are. Maybe next year. Maybe next year. As if uninviting your daughter from Christmas dinner 18 hours before it started was some minor scheduling conflict. My name is Lydia, I'm 32, and a hospice nurse. This is the story of how I became important by becoming absent. I didn't argue. I didn't plead my case. I simply set my phone down on the counter next to the handwritten recipe cards I'd been organizing. The recipe cards my grandmother had specifically willed to me when she passed, noting in her will that I was the only one who cared enough to ask how she made things. The recipe cards I'd planned to bring tomorrow to share with everyone. I opened my laptop instead. With methodical precision, I logged into my bank account and navigated to the recurring payments section. My brother Victor's car insurance. $212 monthly payment canceled. My parents' emergency fund that I'd quietly maintained for 3 years. $500 monthly deposit terminated. The joint streaming accounts, the family cell phone plan I'd been covering temporarily for 14 months, my mother's prescription discount card linked to my healthcare benefits. All disconnected with a few decisive clicks. They'd always treated my career as something uncomfortable. My daily reality of guiding people through their final moments, of holding hands as last breaths were taken, of supporting families through grief. Too morbid for dinner conversation, my mom would say, whenever I tried to share something meaningful from work. Yet they never hesitated to ask for the practical benefits, the medical advice, the insurance discounts, the steady income that helped everyone but me. Growing up as the eldest daughter meant watching Victor receive praise for minimal effort, while my achievements gathered dust. My graduation from nursing school with highest honors warranted a quick family dinner. Victor's completion of community college after 6 years and 3 program changes earned a backyard celebration with extended family. My first apartment came with lectures about financial responsibility. Victor's third apartment came with my parents co-signing his lease and me covering the security deposit just until he gets settled. I'd made peace with it all, or so I thought. I'd built my life around being the reliable one, the fixer, the silent support system. At family gatherings, I'd smile through their dismissals. "Lydia's fine on her own, she's so independent." Or, "She doesn't need anyone checking on her. She deals with the hard stuff every day." What they meant was, Lydia doesn't need attention. Lydia doesn't need care. Lydia will always be there when we need her, regardless of how we treat her. That night, after closing my laptop, I didn't cry. I made myself tea in my favorite mug, a gift from a patient's daughter who'd written, "You made the unbearable bearable" on the bottom. I sat in my living room, surrounded by the Christmas decorations I'd put up for a holiday I would now spend alone, and felt something unexpected. Relief. The next morning, Christmas Eve, my phone buzzed with a text from my father. "Can you send that money for the electric bill today? It's due tomorrow." I didn't respond. By evening, there were 3 missed calls from my mother and a voicemail that didn't mention dinner at all. "The internet is acting up again. Can you walk your father through resetting the router when you have a minute? Thanks. No Merry Christmas Eve. No we miss you. Just another request for help, as if nothing had changed." Christmas Day passed in strange, peaceful silence. I volunteered for a shift at the hospice center, bringing small gifts for patients who didn't have visitors. I held Mrs. Ellington's hand as she told me about the Christmas of 1958 when her husband proposed. I helped Mr. Patterson video call his grandchildren in Australia. I was present, useful, appreciated. All the things I never felt at my family's table. That night, my phone lit up with a text from my cousin Zoe. "What happened? Everyone's acting weird. Your mom said you abandoned them for Christmas, but Victor's girlfriend Renata asked about you and things got super awkward." I sent a brief reply. "They uninvited me. Ask Victor." An hour later, Zoe called. "Holy shit," she said before I could even say hello. "So I asked Victor about you in front of everyone and he mumbled something about you being too busy. Then Renata, who is actually really cool by the way, said that was strange because she was looking forward to meeting you. She's starting nursing school next fall and wanted your advice." I felt a twist in my stomach. What did they say to that? Your mom changed the subject super fast, but here's the weird part. After dinner, I overheard Renata asking Victor why no one talks about your work, and he said something like, "It's just hard for everyone to hear about that stuff all the time." And Renata just stared at him and said, "My mom died in hospice care last year. The nurses there were angels." The irony wasn't lost on me. The girlfriend they were protecting from my depressing career had actually experienced it firsthand and valued it. "There's more," Zoe continued. "Uncle Paul tried to use the family Disney Plus and it wouldn't work. Then Aunt Sarah couldn't get her prescriptions because something was wrong with the insurance card. Your mom kept saying she'd take care of it tomorrow, but she looked really stressed." "How did you find out about all this so quickly?" I asked, still processing everything. "I'm staying at Uncle Paul and Aunt Sarah's for the week while my apartment is being repainted," Zoe explained. "I was right there when everyone arrived for dinner and noticed you weren't there." 3 days after Christmas, the fallout began. First came the texts from Victor. "Hey, the car insurance company called? Something about a missed payment?" Then from my mother. "The pharmacy says my discount card isn't working. Can you call them?" And finally, from my father. "The electric company sent a late notice. Did you forget to send that payment?" I responded to each one the same way. "I can't help with that anymore. I'm sure you'll figure it out." By New Year's Eve, the tone had shifted. My mother called, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "Lydia, honey, is everything okay? We're worried about you." "Why?" I asked simply. "Well, you missed Christmas, you're not returning calls, and there seems to be some issue with all these accounts." "There's no issue," I said. "I've just stopped managing them." The silence on the other end stretched until she finally said, "I don't understand." "I know you don't," I replied. "That's the problem." What followed was a family emergency meeting, without me, of course, which I learned about through Zoe. Apparently, they'd gathered to discuss my concerning behavior and possible work burnout. They decided that Victor would come check on me to make sure I was okay. What they meant was, make sure I fixed everything I'd broken. When Victor showed up at my apartment the next day, he seemed genuinely confused by my calm demeanor. He'd expected tears, exhaustion, some visible sign of the breakdown they'd diagnosed me with from afar. "Look," he said, sitting awkwardly on my couch, "everyone's really worried. Mom and Dad think maybe the job is getting to you." "The job is fine," I said. "It's actually the one place where I feel valued." He shifted uncomfortably. "Come on, Lyd, you know they value you." "Do I? Because from where I'm standing, they only notice I exist when they need something fixed. That's not fair, isn't it?" I pulled out my phone and scrolled through months of family text messages, turning the screen toward him. "Look at these. Every single one is a request. Fix the Wi-Fi, pay this bill, drive Mom to her appointment, send money for Victor's car repair. Not once does anyone ask how I'm doing, what's happening in my life, whether I might need help sometimes too." His face flushed. "So this is, what, revenge? You're punishing everyone because you feel underappreciated." "No," I said quietly. "This is me finally having boundaries. This is me showing you what it actually looks like when I'm not there, not just for dinner, but for everything." He left without resolving anything, clearly unsettled by a version of me he'd never seen before, a version that didn't automatically smooth things over and make everything easy. 2 weeks into January, my parents escalated. They showed up at the hospice center during my shift, something they'd never done in the 5 years I'd worked there. They must have looked up the address in the healthcare directory where my benefits information was listed. I was helping a family say goodbye to their father when the receptionist discreetly let me know they were waiting in the lobby. After I helped the Hendersons say their goodbyes, I made my way to the lobby where the receptionist had said my parents were waiting. They looked out of place among the soft lighting and peaceful decor of the center. My mother stood immediately, her expression a practiced mixture of concern and authority. "We need to talk about what's going on with you," she said, loud enough that a volunteer looked up from her desk. "This isn't the place," I replied softly, "and I'm working." "You've left us no choice," my father interjected. "You won't answer calls, you've stopped helping with the bills. Victor says you're acting completely different." "Mr. and Mrs. Fletcher," a voice interrupted from behind me. I turned to see my supervisor, Dr. Miriam Shaw, her expression professionally neutral, but her eyes sharp with understanding. "I'm Dr. Shaw. Lydia is with a family right now who needs her expertise. Perhaps you could schedule a time to speak with her when she's not on shift." The way she emphasized expertise wasn't lost on me or them. My mother's mouth tightened into a thin line. "We're her parents," she said, as if that explained everything. "And she's one of our most valued team members," Dr. Shaw replied smoothly. "The Henderson family is saying goodbye to their father today, and Lydia is making that possible for them. I'm sure you understand the importance of that work. For perhaps the first time ever, I watched someone define my value to my parents, not as their helper, their fixer, their reliable ATM, but as someone essential to others in their most vulnerable moments. After they left, reluctantly with promises to deal with this later, Dr. Shaw touched my shoulder gently. "Everything okay?" I nodded, unsure how to explain. "Family is complicated," she said simply, "especially for people in our line of work. They often don't understand what we do until they need us to do it for them." She paused. "The Henderson family is asking for you when you're ready." I returned to the room where a daughter was holding her father's hand, telling him it was okay to let go, that she would be all right. I stood quietly in the corner, a witness to their love, their grief, their courage. This was where I belonged, where my presence mattered, where what I offered was irreplaceable. That evening, I found a handwritten note in my locker. It was from Ariella Henderson, the daughter I'd been supporting all day. You made the hardest day of my life bearable. I'll never forget how you helped my father leave with dignity, and how you helped me find strength I didn't know I had. Some people go their whole lives without making the difference you made in a single day. I folded the note carefully and placed it in my wallet next to the worn photo of my grandmother, the only family member who had ever truly seen me. Later that night, my phone buzzed with a new text. It was from Renata, Victor's girlfriend. "Hi, Lydia. This is Renata. I hope it's okay that Zoe gave me your number. I got it from her at the Christmas dinner when I mentioned wanting to talk to you about nursing school. I just wanted to say that hospice nurses like you took care of my mom last year and changed our lives. I don't know what your family's issue is, but I wanted you to know that your work matters so much. Also, I'd still love your advice about nursing school if you're ever up for coffee." Something in my chest loosened. Here was someone who had never met me, yet somehow saw me more clearly than the people who had known me my entire life. The following Sunday, I arrived at the cafe we had agreed on, a cozy place halfway between our apartments. Renata was younger than I expected, with bright eyes and a nervous energy that softened as she talked about her mother's final weeks and the nurses who had guided them through it. "They never made us feel like we were just another family, another death," she said. "They remembered her favorite music. They knew she loved the window open even when it was cold. They treated her like a person right until the end." "That's the job," I said simply. "No." Renata shook her head firmly. "That's a calling. And your family—" She hesitated, then continued more carefully. "Victor told me they uninvited you from Christmas because of me, because I might be uncomfortable with medical talk. He lied about that. And when I figured it out and confronted him, he got defensive, said I didn't understand family dynamics." She looked down at her coffee. "We broke up yesterday, not just because of that, but it was part of it. The way he talked about your work, like it was this morbid thing to be tolerated after what I experienced with my mom." She shrugged. "Some disconnects you can't bridge, you know." The next morning, my phone exploded with notifications. Victor had apparently told our parents about his breakup, placing the blame squarely on me and my dramatic behavior that had poisoned Renata against the whole family. My mother's voice in her voicemail was ice cold. "I hope you're satisfied. Your brother is heartbroken because you couldn't just let things be normal for once. Call me back immediately." I didn't. Instead, I worked my shift, met with families, held space for grief and love and all the complex emotions that come when life meets its end. I came home to more missed calls, more demanding texts, more accusations. 3 days later, I heard a loud knock at my apartment door. When I opened it, I found my entire family standing in the hallway. My parents, Victor, even my aunt and uncle. A family intervention, apparently. "This has gone far enough," my father started. "First, you abandon us at Christmas. Then you stop helping with family expenses without any warning. Now you've ruined your brother's relationship." "I didn't do any of those things," I said calmly. "You uninvited me from Christmas. I decided to stop paying for everyone else's lives, and Victor ruined his own relationship by lying." "That's not fair," Victor interjected. "Renata only broke up with me because you turned her against us." "By doing what exactly? Existing? Having a job she respects?" "By making everything about you," my mother snapped. "It's always been like this. You making everyone uncomfortable with your job and your intensity. We try to protect people from that, and you act like we're villains." In that moment, something clicked into place, a realization so clear it almost took my breath away. They genuinely believed they were doing the right thing by minimizing me. They thought my work, my passion, my very existence was something people needed protection from. "I'm a hospice nurse," I said quietly. I help people die with comfort and dignity. I hold their hands when they're scared. I help families say goodbye and find peace. That's who I am. And if that makes you uncomfortable, if that's something you think needs to be hidden away, then maybe we shouldn't be in each other's lives anymore. My mother gasped. You don't mean that? I do, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice remained. Because I've realized something important. I spend all day making space for other people's needs, emotions, and dignity. I deserve that same consideration from my family, and if you can't give that to me, I need to give it to myself. My aunt, who had remained silent until now, stepped forward. Lydia, honey, we're just worried about you. All these changes all at once. I'm not having a breakdown, I said. I'm having a breakthrough. For the first time, I'm setting boundaries instead of setting myself on fire to keep everyone else warm. This isn't you, my father insisted. The Lydia we know would never... The Lydia you know, I interrupted, is who I had to be to earn a place at your table. This is who I actually am. They left eventually, not because they understood, but because I didn't budge. No tears, no apologies, no promises to return to the role they'd assigned me. The weeks that followed were strangely peaceful. I focused on my work, started taking art classes on my days off, something I'd always wanted to do but never made time for when I was managing everyone else's crises. I had coffee with Renata again, and then dinner. She introduced me to friends from her volunteer work, people who asked questions about my job with genuine interest rather than discomfort. 3 months after Christmas, I received an unexpected email from Victor. No accusations this time, no demands, just a short message. I saw a hospice nurse with a patient today in the park near my apartment. She was helping this old man feed ducks. He was in a wheelchair with oxygen, but he was laughing. I thought about what you do every day. I don't think I ever really understood it before. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a resolution, but it was, perhaps, the beginning of recognition. A week later, a small package arrived at the hospice center. Inside was a delicate silver necklace with a small pendant shaped like an open hand. The note simply read, "For all the hands you hold when no one else will. Thank you for what you do, Renata and the Henderson family." I was touched that Ariella Henderson and Renata had connected. After receiving my care for her father, Ariella had joined the same grief support group that Renata attended following her mother's passing, a connection they discovered when Renata mentioned my name during a session. I fastened it around my neck, this tangible reminder that my worth wasn't determined by those who couldn't see it, but by those who could. That sometimes the family you're born into isn't the family that truly sees you, that becoming absent from toxic spaces creates room for healing ones. My parents still call occasionally, usually when they need something. My responses remain firm but kind. I can't help with that. Sometimes they ask about my work now, tentative questions that reveal how little they actually know about what I do. I answer honestly, without diminishing the importance or the challenge of it, whether they truly want to understand or are simply trying to find a way back to the dynamic they're comfortable with, I can't say. As for Victor, our relationship remains distant but civil. We exchange occasional texts, mostly around holidays or family matters, but I've made it clear that our relationship will never return to what it was before. He seems to understand, even if he doesn't fully accept it yet. What I do know is this: the moment they decided I wasn't welcome at their table was the moment I found my place at my own. Sometimes being excluded is the gift you never knew you needed, the push to create space where you are valued, not just useful. So if you're the one who's always giving, always supporting, always making things easier for everyone else, ask yourself what would happen if you stopped, not out of spite, but out of self-respect, not to punish, but to reclaim your worth. Sometimes, the greatest act of self-care is simply removing yourself from spaces where you have to fight to be seen. And remember, it's never too late to become the person you needed all along. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles. Zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.